So the research person today is a champion debater from Indonesia. And she is an experienced teacher in an international schools in Indonesia as well as in Netherlands for 11 years. And she has coached debaters for tournaments in countries like Korea, China, Taiwan, and Australia. And she has won some debating competitions as well. And she is also a Toastmaster for 10 years. So please welcome with a virtual round of applause your trainer today, who is sharing some tips on debating, distinguished Toastmaster Pipit Andriani. The floor is over to you.
Thank you, sir. Will you allow me to share screen, please?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. So glad to be here. And I've seen several people familiar. I've been to a Toastmasters meeting in Sri Lanka and one time in India as well. So I think I saw 1 or 2 people here. All right, so since we have time constraint, I would like to start immediately. Okay, so debate made easy. Well, it has been mentioned that I have coached debate for 11 years, but no one is an expert enough in debate because debate changes all the time. So apologize if there are some mistakes here of you spot like, how come it looks different from debate that I know, for example, because there are so many different systems, so many different strategies and techniques. However, I will try to make it as easy as possible for all of us. So let's start with, what is a good debate? Okay, a good debate is a debate that is fierce but friendly. What I mean as fierce is that we know that in Toastmasters, we have seniors, right? We have senior members. We have people who are probably older than us. We have people who are probably friends with us. But in debate, please do not be awkward to go against them, all right? We are all equal in debate. That's why it has to be fierce, but friendly. What I mean friendly here, of course, no personal attack, right? Because nothing personal here. This is just a tournament. And also no name calling, for example. And don't be emotionally charged. If you happen to debate about something that is close to your heart, close to your emotion, you don't need to be emotionally charged when you debate about it. Because like what I've said before, it's just a tournament. And your position will be decided by drawing lots, which means your position is not originally your personal position, but you actually have to debate for pro or con decided by a coin toss sometime. So it's nothing personal. And second, a good debate meets the standards of civility and intellectuality. Civility, same as friendly here, of course, no personal attack. And intellectuality has been mentioned before about data, for example. How come with the time constraint of only 5 minutes, we can provide sophisticated data? Well, we cannot, right? But we have to have the standard of intellectuality. You cannot present data that you made up, for example. So just to make your case win, you cannot just make up the data because there's a very limited possibility for your opponents or for the judges to check the data. But it really needs your standard of civility and intellectuality to actually present the correct one. So if you don't have data, it's fine. You can use your analogy, for example. You can use your logic, which I will explain later how to present it. And speak with characteristic clarity and force. What I mean is clarity is there's a certain famous line in debate. The judge would say, explain it to me like I'm a 6-year-old. Okay, the judge have to pretend that they're quote unquote empty, like an empty vessel. They cannot use their own opinion. That's why you have to speak to them as clear as possible. explain it to them as they were a child. That's why you don't have to use technical terms, don't be confusing, you know, and clarity is really important. And also force. Debate is about persuasion. That's why you need to convince yourself first to be able to convince others, right? This is what force means. So you have to have a convincing voice, you know, by being convinced yourself and then convince others. And last but not least is actually my favorite. A good debate always has unorthodox arguments. What do unorthodox arguments mean? This is a type of argument that is not predictable. Something that can make people say, huh, I've never thought about that before. Or I never look at it that way. Or, you know, I always feel that way, but I didn't even know how to explain it. But that debater knew how to explain it. This is unorthodox arguments, and this is what we are looking for in a debate. So try to be as original as possible. Try to be as unpredictable as possible. And then there will be something called a motion. A motion is actually the topic. It has been mentioned before that there will be surprise motions, there will be prepared motions. And there are so many types of motions in this world, in debate. But generally, there are two that I can explain here. The first is called proposal motions. The second is called comparative motions. Now, what is a proposal motion? Proposal motion means you want something new or you want a change to happen, right? You need to say that the status quo is not enough or not good enough according to you. You need to fan the waves of discontent. You know, people are not happy with this. You have to probably exaggerate how unhappy they are with the situation. And because people are not happy with the situation, you need to propose something. You need to propose something to change it, right? First of all, that you have to do, you have to explain what's wrong with the status quo. And then you have to explain after that how you want it differently. For example, with the motion, we would punish parents for their children's obesity. This is a real motion in a world student debate competition. Probably the status quo is, you see, there are so many children still young, but they have become obese. And you identify the problem is probably the parents. The parents keep feeding them junk food, for example, and the kids don't have enough activities outside their home, so they become obese. That's why you identify there's something wrong here. We need to do something. We need to punish parents. What kind of change you want? We hope that by punishing parents, they will take care of their children better. They will give them more healthier food, maybe, or give them more activities so they will not be obese. And that's how you achieve what you want or the change. As a counter proposal or the opposing team, you can try to identify who are involved in this case and show the judges who is actually to blame. It's not the parents, for example. You need to identify who are involved in this case. It can be probably the neighbors, probably the schools, or what I really like is usually the government. The one which is least obvious is usually to blame the most. For example, parents don't have any options feeding their kids other than junk food because the price of vegetable or fresh food is actually very expensive. The government don't know how to make it cheaper, for example. So it's not the parents' fault that their kids become obese because it's the government who cannot manage the economy. So the price of food has become so expensive. It's easier to feed them junk food, for example. So this is how you will counterclock, they call it, counterclock the proposal. And the second type of motion that we'll talk about today is comparative motion. Comparative motion is very easy. Probably a lot of you are familiar with this. You have two options usually, and you need to compare them. Now, how to argue this comparative motion? First, you need to set the ideal. What is the ideal here, right? And then after that, you need to compare. Show option A meets the ideal. And then show that option B, that's not enough. If you only show that option A meets the ideal, you need to also show that option B doesn't meet the ideal. To make it clear, three-dimensional, there's an example here. There's a motion in a marriage, rice is more important than a rose. Now, actually, I have judged this particular debate before. There was a team who actually defined rice as it is and rose as it is. Please don't do that. You can tell that this is symbolic words here. Rice, probably finance, food for the family, and rose is probably love. So the debate here in a marriage, which one is more important, finance or love? And then you set your ideal. What makes a happy family? What makes a happy marriage? You set your ideal, explain the ideal to the judges, and then show that rice or food actually doesn't make happy marriage. And then after that, don't stop right there. You need to explain it further how actually, rice can actually meet the ideal that you created. But then don't stop right there. You need to also explain why love actually doesn't meet the ideal that you created. So this is how you would argue for a comparative motion. In brief. All right, and then this is how I usually tell my debaters to deliver their arguments and their rebuttal in a more structured way. So actually, it's easier for the debaters to have a certain structure so they know if there's a missing link in their argument. For example, there's this simple structure for argument. There's something called AREL, A-R-E-L, stands for assertion, reasoning, example, and link back. Assertion is your statement, basically. The statement, title of your statement, this is what I want to prove. After that is the reasoning, why you think that is, right? And after that comes the example. This is where usually data comes. Or doesn't have to be data. I will show you later that what people say as data doesn't have to be hard facts. 20% of people, blah, 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 or 2.5% of blah, blah, blah. It doesn't have to be hard facts like that. It can be an analogy. It can also be even examples from daily life, right? And then don't stop abruptly. I see a lot of people stop abruptly during debate. You need to link it back to the motion. In the end, I believe that, mention the motion one more time, whether you oppose or you support. Now, what it looks like, I will need help here. I have an example of argument for the topic, child celebrity should not be banned. Can I have Mr. Faisal Ibrahim? Can you read the arguments on the screen, please? Or, hello? Or anyone wants to volunteer?
I can read it.
Yes, good, thank you.
So the assertion, child celebrities should not be banned because this activity is important to support their future career. The reasoning is, we learn and work hard in school so that we can be successful adults in the future. Unfortunately, the path to achieve that is not easy. It takes a lot of practice since we are young. Being a child celebrity gives that child a head start to have a career as early as possible. They will learn a lot of things that other children don't have a chance to learn. This will set them to a successful career path in the future. For example, a lot of child celebrities become successful until adulthood, such as Justin Bieber, Michael Jackson, etc. Link back from this reasoning and example, I believe that child celebrities should not be banned.
Thank you so much, Mr. Samad Kumar. Okay, so the example doesn't have to be hard facts. Can be anything that you already know from our background knowledge. Like for example, Justin Bieber or Michael Jackson as the example of child celebrity who became successful until they became adult. Now, there's also a structure when you want to counter a certain argument, or we call it rebuttal, right? A simple rebuttal structure, in my opinion, looks like this. First, you need to quote what your opponent say, because judges listen to a lot of arguments, particularly in a tournament. They listen to multiple arguments. Sometimes our short-term memory is kicking in, so we don't recall what the previous speaker said. You need to quote what the previous speaker that you want to rebut said, right? And then after that, you need to explain what's wrong with that. What's wrong with that statement that they made? And don't stop right there. You also need to explain further what is right then, right? And I have an example here. I will need somebody, please, to read it. Somebody unmute and read this. Can be anyone.
Oh, okay, so I'm reading the same also. Quote, they said that child celebrity can be successful in the future. They're wrong. This is wrong because many of them become problematic adults in the future because they didn't have normal childhood. For example, Justin Bieber and Michael Jackson. The right, we should let children enjoy their childhood by not becoming celebrities so they can be happy adults in the future.
See, this is how you turn the table around. You actually use their example as your example to show them, to show the judges that the statement was wrong. So you turn the table around by no, they did not become successful because they became problematic adults. Your example was actually our proof. Justin Bieber and Michael Jackson became problematic adults. And then what's right is you identify probably the reason because they didn't have normal childhood. They didn't enjoy their childhood. That's why they became problematic adults. That's why this is the baseline to ban child celebrity. Okay, and then last but not least is about the F word. In debate, there's something called the F word. Now, the F word in debate is not a bad word. It's actually a really good one, which is fair. If you want to convince somebody, you need to appeal to their sense of justice. This is our instinct, our strong instinct. When we see something, we feel something is not fair, we will try to defend it. So you have to make the judge think that the opponent is not being fair, and you're the one who is fair, right? You have to prove that your argument is the most fair. Like mirror, mirror in the wall, who is the fairest of them all? Now, in this case, is your argument must be the most fair. And you show that your opponent is not fair to the situation of or the people. For example, with the motion or the topic, we would like to reveal the identity of COVID-19 patients. Right? If you want to go pro, probably you want to touch the sense of justice for the patients, right? How come with just 1 year of experiencing this pandemic, their whole life will be in bad stigma, will get bad stigma from the society. Probably there will be the talk of the neighborhood because the neighborhood is not well educated enough about pandemic that it can get anyone, for example. So you create the situation and you tell the judges, make them see paint a picture for them that this is not fair for the patients. If you are Khan, you have to also paint a picture for the judges that this is not fair for the public. We cannot just protect one or two people's identity, in detriment of the public, because a lot of public will be exposed to these people, for example. So this is how you can appeal to the judges' sense of justice, by giving them the most or the fairest version of your argument. All right, so this is what I can share. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them on the chat box. Thank you.
Yeah, if you want, you can unmute yourself and ask the questions. It's okay. We will try to finish it as quickly as possible.
I have a question, Pipit, for you. For example, let's say the topic is honesty is the best policy. And if a person has to speak against the motion, so we all know that honesty is the one thing that we also follow. But if we counter this a statement that is very generic and it's true, universal truth, then how we can approach towards this? I just want your point.
Thank you for the questions. I actually do believe that honesty is the best policy is very debatable. A lot of cases that people become brutally honest and a lot of bad things happen to this person. Like, for example, they can even get killed or they have a lot of conflicts in their life because they become brutally honest, for example. So please be assured that a lot of things are actually debatable, more than we thought it was. If you can think of even in debate, we call it the gray area is always there, right? It's not black and white. Even what we thought is the perfect entity, like God, for example, a lot of people still debate about this perfect entity. So there's almost no black and white in debate. A lot of them are actually gray area. Our job is to explore the gray area. But of course, there are things that we need to avoid in debate. And I don't think the motions will be related to religion, for example. It will not be related to blasphemy, for example, or something that is in Toastmasters we don't allow to talk about. So I don't think, or politics. Debating about politics under 2 minutes can probably cause us a heart attack from holding our anger. So I don't think there will be topics related to sensitive issues. But thank you for the question.
Thanks, Pipit. Thank you so much.
Anyone else having a question?
I will share the link to my presentation by the end of this event. So yes, I have few people message me. Thank you.
It seems like there are no more questions. So we will move ahead. And thank you very much, DTM Pipit, for the wonderful presentation. And in fact, we all learn not only about how to debate, but we learn a lot of things that we can apply in Toastmaster speeches as well. So that's really wonderful. So every day is a learning, and this taking part in the debate competition is also a new kind of learning.